welcome to DePuy News. I'm your host, Ian Mitsuwa, coming to you live from DePuy Studios, and this is your 9 o'clock news. In world news, European influential takeover of Africa and Asia has been steadily rising. European countries have now established spheres of influence in China as well as other Asian countries such as the British colonization of India and the Dutch of Indonesia. The colonization of Africa was established at the Berlin Conference, where European powers gathered together to split up the continent. Other colonies outside of Africa and Asia were formed, such as the British takeover of New Zealand and Australia. In national news, the Industrial Revolution has been growing and the U.S. hit an economic boom. Immigration is higher than ever, which has helped the growth of the country economically, but as a result, tensions are higher than ever. There have been many riots and a slew of unfair treatments being flinged nationally towards the immigrants, such as the Chinese Exclusion Act. There's much anxiety amongst the native-born Americans about the future of the country and how they will fit into this constantly growing country. In other news, the U.S. has hit a major depression. The cause of this depression is the collapse of two of the country's largest employers, the Philadelphia and the Reading Railroad, as well as the National Portage Company. The stock market has gone crazy, and there have been many banks, railroads, and steel mills that have fallen into bankruptcy. National unemployment is up to 17 to 25%. Because of this, people are now seriously considering the ideas of Frederick Jackson Turner. He has stated that Americans are now covering the entire United States, and that in order to be a truly successful country, we need to expand our borders. Another idea being considered is the ideas in Alfred Thayer Mahan's book, The Influence of Sea Power on History. His belief is that a strong military presence on the sea and dominating international commerce is what is needed for the U.S. to be great. Citizens of the nation are now looking to South America as a way out of this economic depression, because it will open up a new market to sell the products of the Industrial Revolution. We already have our foot in the door in Cuba, which is a viable option for economic growth because of its growing distance and separation from their motherland, Spain. And now to Nick with the causes of the war.
Thanks, Ian. Now, for the reasons that America has gone to war with Spain is to fight for what our forefathers fought for so long ago, independence, and in this instance, Cuba was desperately trying to fight for its own. America has invested around $50 million in sugar, along with our docks being worth around $100 million annually. So the U.S. had to protect its investment. Meanwhile, Cubans were being herded into reconcentration areas under the Spanish commander, Captain General Valerian Weller y Nicolau. Thousands of Cubans have died from exposure, famine, and disease. Journalist Joseph Pulser has shown the humanitarian concern for the Cuban people best. The flames of the people ignited due to the Cuban fight for its independence. Congress and President William McKinley stated very clearly that the U.S. could not see the Cubans' bloody struggle wage on any longer. Riots in the Havanas have led to the U.S. sending the battleship Maine as a means of protection for U.S. citizens and property. And back to you.
Thank you, Nick, for that enlightening news. The United States battleship was blown up in an explosion which killed 260 men on board. At 9:40 p.m. on the night of February 15, 1898, the United States battleship Maine, riding quietly at anchor in Havana Harbor, was suddenly blown up, apparently by a mine, in an explosion which tore her bottom out and sank her, killing 260 officers and men on board. This morning, only twisted parts of the huge warship superstructure can be seen protruding above the water, while small boats are now floating about examining the damage. The Maine had been showing the flag in Cuba, where the Spanish regime was resisting an armed uprising against national guerrillas. We now turn to Stephen of DePuy News, who is on the side of the wreckage.
Mines, but it's still a pretty risky business. It would appear that the hull of the ship is where most of the weaponry and ammo, including copious amounts of gunpowder, was stored, stimulating the actual explosion. Were it not for this, maybe more lives could have been saved. I'm sure the Secretary of War will be investigating and talking with his greatest thinkers, finding out a better way to run his ship so there's less risk of accidents.
Tired of getting burnt by your old, regular, non-safe matches? Well, no more with the new and improved safety matches. Now you can light your fires and be all nice, warm, and cozy without having to worry about being burned by your match. Safety matches, new and improved match.
Now in America, we have reporter Francisco Guadalupe as what some might call riots are forming in the streets as the public calls for war.
Here we have a U.S. citizen who's rioting on the streets. Why are you so outraged that the U.S. hasn't called for war? Surely one would want peace at this time to try and solve this diplomatically.
You know, there is only one response that can satisfy the people, and that is war. There is no justification for blowing up an American ship when it is there causing no harm. Not only that, we've also lost 260 good U.S. men. There is no excuse for that. And I don't care if the Spanish are sorry.
And there you have it, the people's opinion.
Thanks again, Francisco. Now we'll discuss what this means for the U.S.
Hey guys, look what I just made! No!
This is Nadir Nasabor reporting. I am here on the scene of the Battle of San Juan Hill. As you may know, the Rough Riders are a group of volunteer soldiers. They are here with their commander, Colonel Theodore Roosevelt. Hey Teddy.
Hey, bud.
As a little bit of background, Theodore Roosevelt was serving as Assistant Secretary of the Navy when the U.S. began an interest in Cuban liberation. He finished his duties as Secretary of the Navy and then resigned. He then petitioned to be able to form a group of volunteer soldiers to help fight in Cuba. He was allowed to do so, and he began his search for the best volunteer soldiers he could find. The first thing he did was go to the southwestern United States, where the climate was similar to that of Cuba. While he was there, he assembled a posse of cowboys, miners, college athletes, and some other groups. They were some of the most physically fit men in the area. Having little actual war experience, besides that of being captain of the National Guard for 3 years, Colonel Roosevelt gave command of his group of men to Lieutenant Colonel Leonard Wood. Wood led these courageous men into several battles where they were quite successful in progressing towards Cuban independence from Spain. Wood was then reassigned, and Theodore Roosevelt was given control of his Rough Riders. He then took them to San Juan Hill, where he fought and was successful in a battle against the Spaniards and caused them to retreat. Another victory to advance Cuban independence.
Tired of eating regular old bread, putting butter on it and it doesn't even melt? Well, I have the solution for you. With this toaster, all you have to do is put your bread in and push down the tab thing. Here you have a selection of temperatures to choose from, so you can have a light toast or a burnt toast. You can even decide if you want to put a bagel in, or if something's frozen, defrost it. If not, you can cancel it as soon as you wish. Toast has never been easier. It's the best thing since sliced bread.
That's all for tonight, folks. Tune again next time for DePuy News.